You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk 1150 AM. Now, back to the show with local mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell.
You are listening to the Money Hour at 1150 AM, KKNW, the Saturday, July 23rd show. You can also listen to my show podcast, Facebook premiere show, or you can catch my show on my show YouTube channel. I am your host and local mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. I bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market on everything regarding your money. And now in studio, we have Marissa Beach of Berkshire Hathaway, HomeServices Northwest Real Estate, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Marissa, thank you so much for joining me on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. Greatly appreciate it, Tina.
Yeah, and this is going to be a really great conversation for people that are looking at buying a home and some options for money, whether it's for you as a first-time home buyer, or if you are a mother or a father that would love to have your kids get into a home and they don't have money. This is going to be a really great segment for you to listen to. So, Marissa, what is the first step for buyers looking to buy or sellers looking to sell their home?
I think the first step is definitely a consultation with the professionals, right? A real estate professional and a mortgage professional. I think we can basically decipher all the Google information, because a lot of people are always Googling articles and trying to figure out what is the first step, where can I get more information? And then everybody reads so much or watches a lot of videos or reads a lot of articles that may or may not apply to them personally. And so I think having a consultation, like I said, with a real estate agent, real estate broker, and a mortgage professional will help dispel a lot of the myths, for sure. Education is key.
Yeah, and that is great advice, because there's so much information, and the information that you find online can be overwhelming, and the information can be incorrect and not accurate information. So it's important that you talk with an expert, somebody that's established in the industry, that knows what they do, and have that expertise. And then also, like Marissa said, they're tailoring it unique and specific, because everybody's needs are completely different, and it's going to take a different strategy and a different plan to make sure that you're successful. So some of that advice that's out there, even if correct, may not apply to you and can take you down a wrong road, which is going to be an unsuccessful end. So, Marissa, what is the criteria to qualify for home purchase?
So to qualify for a home purchase, and I get calls almost every day, every week, on this question, you have to have a job and money in the bank. And that sounds so simplified, but money can come in different forms in terms of income, right? Yeah, some people have Social Security income. Some people get income from another partner or spouse or things of that nature. So even though they might not be employed personally, but maybe somebody else in the family will be on the loan and they might be on title, for example. So I think that to qualify, obviously 2 years on the same job. And if people switch jobs, it doesn't mean they should automatically disqualify themselves. They should still have the consultation and talk to a mortgage professional and or a real estate agent to figure out whether or not, switching jobs, were they in the same line of work, for example. Having done taxes for 2 years is really important as well. But I have seen some loans out there that don't require 2 years of tax return. So it really depends on the loan product. I think just relying on experts is really key.
Absolutely. And again, it's based on your unique situation. Yeah. If you've owned a business for more than 5 years, it may only require 1 year tax returns. And if you just changed a job, even if it's a little bit different line of work, it's okay if you're going from a salary to a salary position. So there's lots of things. And again, just as Marissa says, it's going to be unique to your specific situation. And for parents are out there, if your kids can't qualify for a loan, say they have challenging credit, there's a really great program that parents can actually buy for their parents. They can buy for their kids. They can buy for any family member as a primary owner occupied property. Even though they're not going to be living in it, they're buying it as a primary on behalf of their children or their parents. So there's lots of creative things out there. You just need to have that consultation, as Marissa said, on the real estate and the mortgage side. So Marissa, buyers may be asking, is there really such thing as a zero down loan?
Yeah, that's very common, because a lot of people see that number, zero down, so they think they don't have to put anything into the deal or anything into the home purchase. And even though they do exist, which they do, there are zero down programs, it's important to distinguish, what does that mean? Is it a silent second loan, or is it a down payment assistance grant, or is it something else? That doesn't include the out-of-pocket costs. So it's really important to keep in mind that zero down doesn't mean no money in the bank. It still means that that there is help. There's lots of help out there and tons of programs across the country, not just in Washington State. But talk to the professionals involved, and we can hook you up with resources and information.
Yeah. And this is another reason why you have to work with an established real estate agent like Marissa in the negotiating process, because there is room now, as we're getting more to a balanced market, that you might be in a position to negotiate to get the seller to pay those closing costs and prepaids. And even if not, rolling it into the price that you're offering the seller is another strategy that you can do to truly get to a zero down loan. So let's talk about, and I guess exception to that, we're going to kind of break down some things here, but you've got inspection and earnest money and things. But where can buyers find money to buy a home for down payment assistance options? What are you utilizing with your buyers?
Yeah, so to provide some context to that, basically I believe I've read a third of all mortgage applications across the country have been denied, could have used down payment assistance.
Yeah.
So it's really important, again, connecting to the right professionals that can connect you to the resources. I personally teach homebuyer classes monthly in English and Spanish, and I know a lot of different lenders with a lot of different programs. So there's programs that are applied to people under certain income brackets, or if you're a first-time home buyer, or if you're in a particular profession like the HEROES program, which can apply to nurses and doctors and teachers and firefighters, police officers, for example. So there's a wide variety of programs, and just depending on your profession, depending on your employer, depending on the connections that you have, like the classes I teach, some of them are certified through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission program, where that serves as a silent second loan, but it's not a loan that you have payments on until you refinance or sell your home, or decide to rent it out to somebody else, for example. And there are other unique programs like a cash program, right, where there's lenders that are giving cash loans to buyers, so that way their offer looks stronger on paper, and then it gets converted into a regular conventional loan. Yeah. And then there's other banks that give grants, anywhere from $7,500 up to almost $20,000. It could be based on, like I said, buyer status, like if you're a first-time home buyer. It could be based on profession. It could be based on ethnicity or race, because there are some grants out there that are trying to increase minority home ownership. Yes. And so I just try to ask all the different questions. I have a buyer's questionnaire in order for me to be able to put one directly in contact with the right person to get them the right loan and the right grant or right assistance with the home ownership process.
Yeah. And again, it's important in your mortgage consultant, because mortgage companies won't participate in these sometimes because they're a lot of work. It takes a lot more staff to do it. So they just decide not to offer these programs. So it's critically important that you're working with a lender that does. So with your experience, Marissa, let's talk about the difference between using a bank, credit union, or a mortgage broker for a home loan.
I get that question often as well, because oftentimes consumers have, they might have their checkings and savings with one institution. Let's say it's common, BECU is common, for example, or they might have it with bigger banks like Bank of America, US Bank, of that nature, but they might do their loan with another company. And I would say what's most important is having that, not only the program criteria apply to the person or the program that could help them the most, but also the personality match, right? Because I get to know my clients and I know all the lenders I work with, then I try to be a matchmaker in some sense. I'm like, okay, well, they're outgoing, or they like this, or they like that. And that might seem like a small detail that's irrelevant, but it is really relevant, because they're sharing personal financial details. And you want to make sure that that person is somebody they can trust and feel comfortable with asking questions when they need questions answered, whether it's evenings and weekends or things of that nature.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure that your mortgage consultant does not work banking hours, because that does not turn out very well when you're trying to buy a home. And again, as Marissa says, having access to multiple options and making sure they're going to be able to perform at a very high level. So Marissa, what are the out-of-pocket expenses that buyers have to consider when purchasing a home?
So depending on one's income, down payment could come from a program, but if it doesn't, that would be an out-of-pocket expense. Other expenses along the process would be earnest money, home inspection, a home appraisal. And those are, the home appraisal is obviously ordered by the bank where they're getting the mortgage, but the home inspection is ordered by the buyer. So the buyer chooses the company. We realtors have a plethora of companies we work with. We always give recommendations and a list, but buyers aren't obligated to choose from that list. Some buyers choose to from that list and some do not. So it's perfectly fine. We don't get any kickbacks or anything like that, just because we're referring those inspection companies or other types of companies. And so the costs of those things can range greatly, right? A down payment can be anywhere from 3% to 10%. That one myth that I've seen a lot is that, oh, you need 20% down. Not necessarily. Most times you don't, as you know, right, Tina? And then the inspections can be anywhere from $500 to $700-ish. Appraisals, $800 to $1,000. And then move-in costs. That's one thing I think that gets overlooked throughout this process is like people forget you're going to want new paint, new furniture, new this, new kitchenware, new dining table, things of that nature. And those costs can easily add up.
Yeah, definitely. Looking in at your whole budget and what that's going to look like for you is important. Yeah, and a shout out to 20%. A lot of people feel that they need 20% to avoid paying monthly mortgage insurance. You do not. You, depending on qualification, you can do a 20% down and do a buyout of mortgage insurance, sometimes finance it into the loan. So again, having that expert real estate agent, mortgage professional on your side to help you navigate through all the options and tailor it specific to what your needs are. So can you describe the difference between the home inspection and the appraisal inspection?
Sure. So the home inspection, again, the company is hired by the buyer and sometimes by the seller. If the seller wants to do an inspection before they list their home on the market, they can. And most of the time they do share that inspection report with the buyer's agent, who then shares it with the buyers. So that home inspection company should be certified, licensed, right, in the state of Washington. And they check for defects of the home, interior and exterior, if it's a single family home. But if it's a condo, then they're just looking at the interior if the HOA takes care of the exterior. And their goal is to find all the defects in the home, because every home, even if it's new construction, will likely have some defect in the eyes of the buyers and in the eyes of the inspectors.
Sometimes more in the new construction, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so many subcontractors involved in that process. You're like, who was part of this construction? Like, who was part of this project? And so whereas the appraisal is ordered after the home inspection contingency is fulfilled, and that appraisal is ordered to evaluate whether or not the purchase price, which is the same as the offer price, right, is really what the house is worth. And that's really what the bank wants to give in terms of the mortgage loan. And so the buyers will have to rely on that money in order to get the home. And so even if they escalated a well above list price, which has been common for many years, the appraiser might go out there to the property and evaluate, okay, are these characteristics similar to other comparable properties in the neighborhood? And they do the analysis largely online, but sometimes again in person, comparing those properties in order to figure out what amount the bank is going to give as far as the mortgage.
Yeah. So when is a good time to invest in real estate?
There's a saying in real estate, which I'm sure you heard, is the best time to buy is when you're ready, willing, and able.
Yeah.
And I believe in that wholeheartedly, because you can have one of the three, but not two of the three. And it's really important to have all three. So you could be ready emotionally, but maybe not ready financially, or you could be ready financially, but not ready emotionally. And one thing that I've realized is that people don't invest in real estate because it's a good investment necessarily, unless they're investors, right? And that's their thing. But the clients I work with, first-time home buyers, it's an emotional investment. Yeah. So for them, they're looking at things like school districts. They're looking at, time of year for school enrollment. But there are homes on the market all year round. So I would say like December has sometimes been my best month of the year. Last year was my best month of the year. And so just because you think that, oh, there's no open houses going on, doesn't mean that there aren't homes available for sale. Yeah. And look at the summer, right? I don't think anybody predicted that the market was starting to slow down this summer. And so it's a lot of agents, a lot of brokers are starting to figure out, okay, what are some other strategies to continue being to help so many families that deserve homeownership.
Yeah. If you're thinking of being in homeownership and not for a flip or a very short term, when you think about buying, now's the time to do it. Get in, start building that appreciation. And if it's a long-term investment, even if there is an adjustment in market, you don't lose real estate. You don't lose money in real estate historically, because the real estate market always goes like this. So Marissa, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to share your wealth of information with my listeners. And thank you for joining me on my virtual studio.
Thank you for having me.